Hello and welcome to the Customs Clinic Videocast, offering expert advice to businesses that are looking to trade with the EU and beyond. So I'm going to be talking to customs expert Arne Mielken. Hope I've pronounced your name correctly, Arne.
Great.
Founder of Customs Manager Ltd, about trading with the EU now that the UK has left the European single market. So we're going to be discussing some of the common problems that businesses, exporters and importers face, and I guess offer some practical tips to try and make trading with the EU as painless as possible. But first, some quick introductions. My name's Paul Mullins from Sandusky PR. I'm a former business journalist, so I'm going to be asking Arne all today, and hopefully the sorts of questions that businesses maybe that haven't traded abroad before will be asking and want answered. Arne, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name is, as you say, is Arne Mielken, and I have about 15 years of experience in customs and global trade. So when it comes to importing and exporting, then I lend a helping hand, and yeah, I do that with companies all across Europe, the UK, EU, and some people call me a customs geek because I just love this stuff.
Excellent. Well, I think that's what businesses need, isn't it? They need someone with some expert advice. So today you're going to be sharing some of your advice with businesses out there. I think it's fair to say that many businesses are struggling with the red tape and extra costs of trading with the EU following our departure. So what would you say are the essentials for businesses exporting or importing for the first time?
So I think it's clear to understand. The first thing to understand is that the situation has now, if you're dealing with the UK and the EU, has now changed. We are no longer in the single market and in the customs union, and now it is not possible anymore to just let the products go. I place an order and the goods depart. Now we need to communicate more with our suppliers on the other side of the border or our customers. We need to figure out who does the customs clearance, who does the paperwork, who deals with the bureaucracy on either side of the fence. And so a bit of homework is required, and we need to understand these new customs procedures and processes. And there's been a lot of talk and a lot of media attention to those. But the key message is, it's not same as usual. The situation has changed. We now trade on different terms than we did before, even though we have a free trade agreement. So we need to do our homework. We need to learn about new processes and procedures. And then there is no reason as to why we couldn't trade with the EU or the UK or the world for that matter, seamlessly or relatively seamlessly as before.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there'll be businesses out there who'll be pleased to hear that. You mentioned things like getting your head around different customs procedures. A lot of businesses, as I understand it, come unstuck filling in those customs declarations correctly. So why is this, and what advice can you give them? Are there any tips on how to approach these customs declarations and fill them in? Anything to watch out for?
Well, the customs declaration is the key forms, right? They are the ones that businesses need to focus on. They are a little complex. They are based on rules of regulations that are set at global level and at national level. And they require a little bit of geekiness, right? There are fields and boxes electronically to complete. And what we need to, above all, is the right story. We need to be able to tell the story as to where the goods come from, where the goods go, who sends them, how do you send them, what medium of transport, air, road, sea, and so on. And for all of this, we need the right paperwork. So for your customs agent, so the person that will do the entry, which could be yourself, in fact, but if you are outsourcing this part, then you need the right paperwork. What is just, give you an idea of what the right paperwork is, well, it would be an invoice, a commercial invoice, or a packing list. This is what the agent draws information out of to make this customs entry. So I guess, Paul, you see where I'm going with this. This commercial invoice, the information you provide to the agent for the customs entry, needs to be spot on. What is the product? What is the value of the product? Where is the product coming from? And under which procedure is it entering a market? So quite a lot of questions to answer and get right. But that's the new game. If
Your reality.
Yeah, it's a new reality. Correct.
And what happens if you don't get those questions right? If you don't get the paperwork absolutely spot on? I mean,
well, it's a really good question, and all companies will find out very quickly, because the first thing is you might not even leave our beautiful shores, because your export declaration will not be accepted by the computer system, and you know what happens when computer says no. So what do we got to do? We got to get it right. And if you clear it on one side, remember there are in fact two borders, right? The export side, which could be relatively straightforward if you have the necessary licenses. But on the import side, there's another aspect that we haven't talked about yet. That's the money. So they will be very, very interested. The authorities will be, for you to tell them what kind of value your product has, so that they can charge you customs duty. Get that wrong, well, you know what's going to happen. Your goods are going to get stuck. And the result is what? You're potentially not going to reach your customer in time as agreed. Your suppliers might not be able to get the stuff into the country that into your country, so you don't have your stuff, and you go asking, where's my stuff? And I had a client just this morning saying he has his goods can't leave a UK port because of a missing license. This happened several weeks ago, and we are now at £20,000 demurrage charges. So the risk
wow.
is high costs, and of course the issue that there might be compliance challenges here, and you don't want to be found foul of government regulations.
Yeah. So are there advantages about working with a broker? Because can they take some of the hassle away? And how would you go about choosing a broker? What's the sorts of things that you need to check when enlisting the services of a broker?
So brokers are vital, right? They are the people that will make the customs declaration for you. And they will ask questions such as, what's the commodity code? What's the value of they will type it all into this computer system that requires all this information. Brokers act on your behalf. You need to instruct them how to clear the goods, and they will use the information you provide them. So again, you need to find the right information to provide them, make sure that you tick every box in the true sense of the word. So that means what? It means you need to give good instructions to the broker, and the broker needs to be set up to receive these instructions and to act on them. So you want to have a conversation with your potential broker that sounds and reads like a true partnership, like somebody who understands you, who takes the time to really get to know you and your business. That is really important. And why is that? Because imagine you need a license for your product. Imagine there is a special clearing requirement that is out of the norm. Well, I would expect my broker to know that, to recognize I'm in a special situation and I need special consideration. So they are really a line of defense against non-compliance and against additional costs. So they can help with that. But of course, that brokers also have other things to do than to always look for you. So look after you. So look for someone who's ready to get to know you, to help you. Look for a broker being AEO certified. AEO is an
What's that?
authorized, yeah, it's an authorized economic operator status. It's a kite mark, a golden standard.
Okay.
And that tells you that the broker really knows what they're talking about. Yeah, and ideally, of course, that's the last tip I can give, is if the broker exists also in some shape or form on the other side, right? So they help you get out of the country. Ideally, if they exist on the other side, and they can just pass the information to their own subsidiary or company in the importing country, well, that might make it a little quicker. So it's an important part of the puzzle, piece of the puzzle.
Right. Okay. So there was much relief at the beginning of the year when the UK struck a deal with a trade agreement with the EU. So presumably it means we can all enjoy tariff quota-free trade now, or is that a bit of a myth?
Yeah, yeah, you nearly fell for that trap here. It says free trade agreement on the tin, right? So why is what's written on the on the outside not what's on the inside? And I think a lot of businesses, actually talking to many of my clients, have said the same thing. Arne, well, why do you call this free trade agreement if it's not really free? And trade agreements are complex. This one is particularly complex, 1,500 pages. And the one thing to understand is that there is no such thing as a free lunch, Paul, I'm afraid. And the same thing happens here. Trade, like I said, trade with the EU or the UK is nothing like it was before and will, for the foreseeable future, not change. And one thing that really changed is the need to meet these very, very complicated rules of origin, right? So this is
I was worried that you were going to get onto that.
Yeah, and that's the fundamental. If you want free trade, you want quota-free and duty-free access to the market, I'm afraid you got to meet those.
So what are rules of origin, and who needs to meet them, and how do you meet them?
So rules of origin are it describes the economic nationality of a product. Right. There are different types, two types of rules of origin. The one we care about is preferential rules of origin, when there's a preferential trade agreement like the one we talk about now. So in this case, there are legal rules that describe a condition that your product has to meet. And if you meet that condition as per the legal text, so you actually need to go to page 700 something, find that rule. And if you meet that rule, hallelujah, you can import into the EU or the UK for duty free, provided, of course, you meet some auxiliary rules that also exist in the agreement. So in a nutshell, it's some fixed rules you need to meet. If you meet them, then you can say that this product that you are bringing out of the UK into the EU, when it comes into the EU, is meeting the rules. And because it meets the rules of this agreement, the duty rate magically drops from whatever it is, 10% to 0.
Right. So would you say rules of origin is one of the areas where businesses tend to come unstuck? Because it sounds, for the layperson like me, It sounds fiendishly complicated, or can be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rules of origin are a legal construct.
Right.
They are not something that would make much sense in a normal business context. They are complicated. But the good news is, once you got your head around them, and you kind of get the gist of it, then you can have it easier navigating your way through them in other trade agreements as well. Because remember, the same rule of origin that you have uncovered that you have to meet in one agreement may not be the one that you have in another agreement. So when you conquer the world, well, getting your product out there, rules of origin are important to reduce the costs, the total landed cost of your product. But you got to read the fine print. And that's what trips a lot of businesses up.
And how, if you source ingredients from all over the place, make it into a product? I mean, that must be a nightmare unpicking all that, mustn't it?
Yes, exactly. So you need to in fact figure out, if you have a product that consists of many raw materials, you need to figure out which one are coming from the UK or the EU for make it simple, and which ones are not. And then it will depend if you have enough of UK originating raw materials, then it might be okay and you might get a 0 duty%. And if you don't, then you might not meet the terms. And that can be very problematic. I've worked with a client just this week who has a potential 28% duty rate to pay,
Oof.
with rules of origin very unfavorable. They can never meet the requirements.
Right.
So now imagine this, your product yesterday or a couple of months ago was that price, and now you have to up the price by 28% just to meet the import duty.
Gosh.
That can really kill
Yeah. Well,
life abroad.
for some businesses, it's just not going to be viable, is it?
Exactly. So you got to be a bit clever. We call it customs planning.
Right.
It's having a strategic look at where is the market you want to go, what is the experience you want to give your customers. Never forget the customers, right? They have something to do potentially, and how are you going to make it as cost effective and as quick to get into this market as possible. And that requires some more thinking than it was before we Brexited.
Okay. So I guess some businesses may be thinking, well, this is all too complicated, trading with the EU. What I'll do is I'll go and open a warehouse in Europe. I'll create a subsidiary in Europe. And I mean, can they bypass all the tariffs and red tape by doing that? And would you advise businesses to go and set up shop in the EU, UK businesses to
well, it's definitely
bypass all the hassle?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I get a lot actually, and many businesses have already done that. The key advantage is, of course, that you can get your products into the market independent of clients' orders, customer demand, I would say. Meaning what? Meaning if you have a warehouse, for example, where you can store product, if that's an option, then and that is in the European Union, then the way to your EU customer and vice versa for the UK, of course, is shorter. Right. Because then you have already imported this. So any delay you may experience or any specific cost you may have experienced that you try to mitigate, of course, will have already been done. And when the customer wants it, you can bring it to the customer. So you reach your customer faster if the product is already in the single market.
Right.
Otherwise, if I order five of your items, you got to ship the 5. Go through all the process, 5 items of making a customs entry and all of these things. Now, if you are in the EU already, you can, of course, deliver right away from your warehouse. Okay. Let alone, and that's the final point I will make on this, let alone the complication of indirect taxes, the question who is importer, VAT considerations. There are a lot of nasties that occur when you are not physically present in the EU, but you have your majority of clients in the EU. Right. It's difficult. So yes, the answer is yes, I recommend that, but we need, of course, to sense check that this is relevant and useful for businesses. So cost benefit
and viable to be able to move, because I guess you've got to think about, well, where you're going to get your staff from. Are you going to relocate staff? Are you going to source staff?
Yes, lots of considerations for sure. But I recommend looking into that as an option, because if you don't, you might be, you are up against competition in the single market. So you have to clear with the border, you have to pay the duty, you have to deal with VAT. The French don't, the Spanish don't. So what's your strategy when your competitors have a benefit when dealing with the European Union?
Okay, so definitely worth giving that some serious thought then.
Hmm.
I was going to talk about, I've been reading about SPS goods, but it's giving me a headache already. Maybe we should park that one for next time. But I mean, I guess the point to make.
I think we lost you, Paul. We may have lost you here.
Oh, hi, I'm back.
You're back. Great.
Yes,
Good to have you back.
yes.
Modern technology. Love
I
it.
knew we shouldn't talk about SPS goods
That
because
that that the connection went off then. Huh?
it
Yeah,
did. So
Hmm.
why don't we park that for next time?
Better. I think the
But
connection.
I think the point to make is that there are some goods where you need specific documentation
Yes.
and health certificates if it's animal or plant related.
Yes.
That's something maybe we could address that next time.
Sure.
Okay. So what else was I going to ask you? Yeah, I've heard that some of the there's been some changes to some of the EU rules, which mean more food products will need those export health certificates. So again, that's something that businesses need to keep an eye out for.
It's a good point you are making. The rules and regulations around customs and global trade, as you could tell from talking to me, and I'm sorry if I'm not clear enough, I try here. They change regularly. I want to say all the time. And again, here in a short while, the EU rules on food and feed and the necessary certificates required to even get into the border change. So I cannot stress enough how important trade intelligence is in this context. We need to be up to date all the time on what the EU is doing so that we don't face any nasty surprises where we say, I've done my homework, I know what I'm doing, I know origin, I know valuation, I know classification, and yet still I'm stuck. Why? Because we forgot that overnight something changed. And this is a constant phenomena in the EU and the UK, of course. So we've got to be vigilant.
You don't see things might settle down a bit. It's a constant.
Well, I think it's a learning process on both sides. And once we kind of understood how the rules and regulations on customs and global trade work, it will settle to a certain extent. To the extent that we become more comfortable with making customs declarations and getting certificates of origin and making statements on origin and the like. So all this additional paperwork, which unfortunately is not going to go away.
Okay.
Once we have that, we are free to embark on trade with the world if we want, but it is a learning process that will take a while, and it will mean that we need to think about how we get this paperwork organized and have a bit of a strategic think as to where can I save duty, where have I got savings opportunity, where can I plan my supply chain to minimize any delays, disruption, any additional bureaucracy, and also to ensure that I stay compliant with every day changing rules. So that's an ongoing compliance work, I would say, that needs to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a mix of both, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I mean, the other big change or delay, I guess, was the UK import checks, just to sort of round things off now, because we've been talking a lot about export.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of import and businesses that may import into the UK or export to the UK. So those checks have been delayed. They were due to come in, some checks on food products, was it?
Yes.
Due to come in the beginning of April.
Yes.
So that's been delayed
Yes.
because people suddenly realized, well, a lot of these customs checkpoints haven't even been built yet, and all sorts of problems and concerns about the fears of UK supermarket shelves being empty of food, all that sort of stuff. So when it's been delayed now for a few months, when do those import checks come in now?
So there's the staged plan was originally to start in April and finish in July. That means not only the live animal and health certification checks and pre-notification checks were going to come in, but the full blown out customs system as it is supposed to be was scheduled for July, meaning all the phytosanitary, so animals and plants checks, the border inspection posts, so stopping consignments to check for these regulations and these consignments, and of course full customs entries. So the customs declaration with the full completion of boxes. Now this has been pushed back in stages again, starting again in October of 2021, and then for a larger rollout in the beginning of the next year. So okay. All in all, I would expect us to be up and running with the hopefully final version of how import checks are going to occur for all products by beginning of next year. Now, all of that is subject to confirmation. That's where we are today. Whether this is where we are tomorrow is written in the stars.
Okay, so that's probably a good point.
We shouldn't have talked about these SPS checks, Paul. You've gone again, I know. So,
things have been delayed for 6 months. You know, if there's been this delay, it means businesses can relax a bit.
No, we've got more time. We've got more time to get ready to really think about what am I still missing. We've had this great opportunity to see where potential loopholes is, where non-compliance may happen, where delays occur. Well, this is now the time to say, okay, do I have all my my information, all the details that I need? Have I thought this through, whether I need a license or not? Whether do I know that my goods have been classified correctly? All of these issues we can now tackle head on. Is there a need to understand more about rules of origin? When I thought I was ready, and in the beginning of the year, I figured out when the new checks came and the new laws were applied, oh, I am not quite ready yet. We thought we are ready, but we are not ready yet. We have breathing space now, luckily, to solve all the remaining issues.
So use that time wisely, I guess, is your message.
Yes, do not sit there and wait again for another deadline. Don't do that. Really now see understand we are in a different space than we were before Brexit. We require customs entries, we require licenses, we need to get our head around classification, origin, valuation, and yeah, I'm afraid we need to be a bit geeky about this. And if every company in their own means does that and commits to becoming a little bit geeky on global trade, then we will have the UK exporting and importing like real global champions in no time. Oh, we've lost him again. There you are.
Okay. So what are we going to be talking about next time? I think the aim with these video casts is we've sort of given a bit of an overview, haven't we, today? But maybe for future video casts, we'll be looking to perhaps explore some of these topics like rules of origin, SBS goods, that sort of stuff, maybe in a bit more detail, because they, as we've mentioned, they are fiendishly complicated, and maybe, you know, give a bit more detailed advice on some of those areas.
Would be my pleasure.
Okay. Well, it's been great talking to you, and looking forward to speaking again soon.
Well, look, Paul, thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks for asking all these questions. Very insightful. So thanks a lot. Very good.
Okay, great talking to you, Arne. Speak soon.
Bye, Paul.
Bye for now.